You know that feeling when you're right on the edge? When every part of you is screaming to quit, to walk away, to hit the reset button one more time. I've been there more times than I want to admit. And for the longest time, I thought that impulse to quit meant something was wrong. Wrong path, wrong timing, wrong me. But what I've learned, what I need to tell you today is that moment, that brutally uncomfortable moment when quitting feels like it's the only option, that's not the end. That's actually where everything begins. I want you to get comfortable. We're going to talk about what happens when you finally stay, when everything in you wants to run.
I've been walking my own road, learning truth I already knew. Real talk, real soul, every step's a soft life move. This is a scenic route where the heart breaks through.
Welcome back, beautiful souls. Once again, I'm Scenic, and this is the Scenic Route. And today, we're going to go back and revisit consistency, something every one of us has wrestled with. As I said last week, it's supposed to be about real consistency, the kind that asks you to stay when your motivation has completely evaporated, the kind that requires you to sit with doubt instead of burning your life down and starting over, the kind that shapes who you are and who you become, not just what you achieve. And listen, I'm not coming to you as someone who has this figured out. I'm coming to you as someone who has quit so many times. I quit relationships when they got hard, jobs when I hit a plateau, and even diets after a couple of weeks, at most a month. Even dreams when I couldn't see the finish line. I've been the queen of the fresh start. The reset button was my friend. But somewhere along the way, something shifted. And that shift, it changed my entire life. So today, we're going to walk through what I call that moment nobody warns you about, that discomfort phase of consistency that makes you question everything. We're going to talk about what happens after the initial motivation dies, how to actually sit with doubt instead of running from it, and why consistency isn't really about results at all. It's about identity. It's about who you become when you refuse to quit. And I have a feeling that someone needs to hear this. Are you ready? Okay, so let me paint you a picture. You start something new. Maybe it's a business, a fitness routine, or finally prioritizing yourself after years of putting everyone else first. And at first, it feels amazing. You're motivated. You're energized. You can see the vision. You're telling your friends about it. You're making plans. You're all in. And then week 3 hits, or month 2. And suddenly, it's not exciting anymore. It's just hard. The newness has worn off. The dopamine hit is gone. And what you're left with is this grinding, uncomfortable reality that this thing you committed to, it requires effort, real effort. And then that's when the voices start. Maybe this isn't for you. You're not seeing results fast enough. Other people make this look easy. Why is it so hard for you? Maybe it's a sign to try something new. This, my loves, is what I call the discomfort phase. And it is rough. I remember when I decided to stop smoking over 10 years ago now. And what's funny is it didn't start with some dramatic moment. There was no rock bottom, no big announcement, no final symbolic cigarette. At first, I was motivated. I felt strong and I was proud of myself, certain that this time was different. I was counting days, feeling accomplished, riding that early momentum. But then the motivation wore off. And life didn't get easier and stress didn't magically disappear. The triggers were still there after long days during quiet moments. When I felt overwhelmed or needed comfort, that's when it stopped being inspiring and started being uncomfortable. Because quitting wasn't exciting anymore, it was inconvenient. It required restraint when everything in me wanted relief. There were moments, real ones, where my body wanted the habit back, where the mind tried to negotiate, and it was that urgency that whispered, one won't hurt, You can start again tomorrow. And do you know what I wanted to do? Convince myself it was a failed experiment and move on to something shinier. Because here's what I understand now that I didn't understand then. Discomfort feels like failure when you're in it. When you're in the discomfort phase, your brain is doing everything it can to protect you. It's saying, this is hard. Hard means danger. Let's get out of here. But what I've learned is that discomfort isn't a stop sign. It's not a signal that you're on the wrong path. It's actually proof that you're growing and that you're pushing against old patterns, that you're becoming someone new. And the only way to become that person, you've got to stay. Not because it feels good, but because on the other side of that discomfort is a version of you that you've never met, a version of you who doesn't quit on herself. So, if you're in the discomfort phase right now, if you're questioning whether you should keep going, I want you to know this is exactly where you're supposed to be. This is the test. And the answer isn't to quit. The answer is to stay, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. I'd like to revisit our discussion from last week on motivation, just for a moment, because I think we've been sold this lie that motivation is supposed to carry us through, that if we just find the right goal or the right system or the right mindset, we'll wake up early every day wanting to do the right thing. And let me tell you, that's not how it works. Motivation is the spark. It's the thing that gets you started. And it's that initial fire that says, yeah, let's do this. I'm doing this. But motivation, as I've said before, it is a terrible long-term partner because it comes and it goes. It's moody. It's unreliable. And if you're waiting for motivation to show up before you take action, you're going to be waiting a long time. I learned this the hard way. When I stopped smoking, there was a point, weeks in, where the motivation just disappeared. Not gradually, not politely. It was just gone, like someone had flipped a switch. I woke up one morning and I didn't feel proud or strong or determined. I felt irritated, tired, and restless. I wanted the comfort back, the familiar rhythm, the thing that I used to reach for without thinking. And in the past, that would have been the moment I gave myself an out. I would have said, I'll try again when life calms down. Or this just isn't the right time. But this time I did something different. I didn't smoke it. Not because I felt motivated, but because I had already decided who I was becoming. And going back didn't fit that version of me. Not because I wanted to, but because I had made a commitment to myself. And I was curious what would happen if I honored that commitment, even when I didn't feel like it. And you know what I discovered? When motivation dies, something better takes its place. Identity. See, motivation is external. It's fleeting. It comes from excitement and newness and dopamine hits. But identity is internal. It's who you are. It's the story you tell yourself about yourself. And when you show up, even when you don't feel like it, you're not just taking action. You're casting a vote for who you're becoming. Every time you choose to stay when quitting is easier, you're telling yourself, I am someone who keeps her commitments. I am someone who doesn't abandon herself. I am someone who follows through. And over time, that becomes your identity. You stop needing motivation because you're not doing it to feel a certain way. You're doing it because it's who you are. Now, I'm not saying every day is easy. There are still days when showing up doesn't feel natural or easy. But the difference is I don't let how I feel dictate what I do. I do it anyway. Not because I'm disciplined, not because I'm special, but because somewhere along the way, I became the kind of person who keeps her word, especially to herself. And that shift, that's everything. So if your motivation has died and you're wondering how you're supposed to keep going, I want you to ask yourself this: who do I want to become? Not what do I want to achieve or who do I want to be? Because when you anchor to identity instead of outcomes, you stop needing to feel motivated. You just become the person who does the right thing. And that, my love, is where real transformation happens. Okay, Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, doubt. Because even when you understand the discomfort phase, even when you're not relying on motivation anymore, doubt still shows up. Doubt sounds like, what if this doesn't work out? What if you're wasting your time? What if you're not good enough? What if everyone else can see something you can't? And for most of my life, when doubt showed up, I hit the reset button. I would convince myself that the doubt was a sign, that it meant I was on the wrong path, that it meant I should start over with something else. And I became really, really good at starting over. New city, new job, new relationship, new version of myself. But here's what I finally realized: doubt isn't a stop sign, it's furniture. What I mean is, doubt is always going to be there. It's part of the human experience. It doesn't mean you're doing something wrong, it just means you're doing something new, something that matters, something that's pushing you beyond who you used to be. And the moment that I learned to sit with doubt instead of running from it, everything changed. There was a moment I'll never forget where I was about 3 months into a project that I had poured my heart into. And one night, I was lying in bed and this wave of doubt just crashed over me. What if no one cares about this? What if I'm not as good as I think I am? What if I fail? And my first instinct, burn it down, delete everything, start fresh with something safer. But instead, I did something I'd never done before. I just sat there. I let the doubt exist. I didn't try to talk myself out of it. I didn't try to have a positive mindset. I just acknowledged it. Okay, doubt is here. I doubt. I see you. And you know what happened? It didn't kill me. It didn't derail me. It just passed. Because doubt isn't actually the enemy. The enemy is the story we tell ourselves about what doubt means. We think doubt means we're on the wrong path. But what if doubt just means we're on a path that's new? A path where we don't have all the answers yet. So here's what I want you to try. The next time doubt shows up, don't run from it. Don't reset. Don't abandon ship. Just sit with it. Ask yourself, what is this doubt trying to protect me from? 9 times out of 10, it's protecting you from the discomfort of not knowing, from the vulnerability of putting yourself out there, from the possibility of failure. But here's the thing. You can handle all those things. You've handled harder. And when you learn to sit with doubt, when you stop treating it like a crisis and start treating it like a companion, you reclaim your power. You stop letting fear dictate your decisions. You stop resetting your life every time uncertainty shows up. And you become someone who stays, even when it's scary, even when you don't have all the answers. So we've talked about the discomfort phase, and we talked about what replaces motivation. And we've also talked about sitting with doubt. But I want to bring it all together with the thing that changed my entire perspective on consistency. Consistency isn't about the results you get. It's about the person you become. For so long, I thought consistency was a tool, a means to an end. But what I've learned is that the real transformation isn't in the external outcomes. It's in who you become when you commit to not abandoning yourself. I remember the moment this clicked for me. I had been showing up consistently for myself for about 6 months. And honestly, the external results weren't that impressive. I wasn't where I thought I'd be. I hadn't made it. But one day, I caught myself in a moment of doubt, the kind that used to send me into a tailspin. And instead of spiraling, I just moved through it. I didn't need to reset. I didn't need to quit. I just acknowledged the doubt and kept going. And in that moment, I realized I'm not the same person I was 6 months ago. The old version of me would have quit by now. She would have convinced herself this wasn't working and moved on to something else. But the version of me sitting in that moment, she knew how to stay. She knew how to sit with discomfort. She knew she could trust herself. And that's when I understood consistency had built me into someone new. Not because I achieved some external goal, but because every single time I chose to stay, even when quitting was easier, I was reshaping my identity. I was becoming a woman who doesn't abandon herself. And that's the real power of consistency. It's not about the to-do list. It's not about the metrics. It's about the internal transformation. Every time you show up for yourself, you're casting a vote for who you're becoming. You're saying, I am worthy of my own commitment. I am someone who follows through. And over time, that becomes your truth. You stop being someone who starts and stops. You become someone who stays. And that version of you is unstoppable. So, beautiful soul, here's what I want to leave you with today. If you're in the discomfort phase, if your motivation has faded, if doubt is whispering in your ear, and if quitting feels like the easiest option, I want you to ask yourself one question. Who do I become when I abandon myself? Because that's what this is really about. It's not about achieving the goal or hitting the milestone or proving something to anyone else. It's about the woman you become when you choose to stay, when you honor your commitments to yourself, when you stop resetting and start building. And I can tell you from experience, that woman, she's worth meeting. So stay, even when it's hard, even when you don't see the results yet, even when doubt shows up. Stay, because the breakthrough isn't the external outcome. The breakthrough is in becoming someone who doesn't quit on herself. And that changes everything. I want to thank you for being here today. Thank you for trusting me with your time and my story. And if this resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. Send me a message, leave a review, or just sit with what came up for you. And remember, you are not alone in this. We are all learning to stay together. I'll talk to you in the next episode. And remember, you're on the route.
Life lessons, no blessings. Being real, being healed, being you. Yeah, welcome to the scenic group.